Hello, welcome to my railway, Whitby. It's an O-gauge fine scale model railway, and I've built this brand new shed to accommodate it. You may have seen a previous video of it in a garage where I couldn't assemble the whole thing, but now I can get the whole railway erected here. A lamp post there with Whitby on, and I also have a quarter-mile post set in the front of the shed. We'll go inside and we'll have a look at the railway. Right, so this is the railway. This area here is the station itself, Whitby. The last board here of the dock is not quite finished. This station building has got to have an overall roof, and there's a dock there which will have water, sailing ships and other paraphernalia in, but that's still under construction, that end board. But the rest of it's more or less done. There's no signals yet, and there's a few minor details to still do, but we've got the goods shed here, an engine shed there, and down the line we have bog hole signal box, which is this building here, and then we have, to receive the trains, we have a train turntable, so the entire trains can be turned round and reversed. And I also have this loco turntable here for turning engines. We've got some controls for the railway here, and all along the entire length of the front of the railway are all various controls for operating points by pulling and pushing, and the switches for isolating areas, and it just goes on and on all the way down right to this last board where there's some final switches there. We'll show you later some of the finer details which are quite interesting. This station will have, when it's completed, an overall roof which will make it very difficult to uncouple locos. So I've got round that by arranging a lifting station so that a man can get in quite easily to uncouple his locos with his uncoupling stick. During the wars, this area was the scene of German action in both the First War and the Second World War. During the First World War, the German High Seas fleet had a cruiser squadron that came up the east coast of Britain, shelling Great Yarmouth, Scarborough, Whitby and West Hartlepool, and the shells were landing all in the town of Whitby, which was beyond the station here, and some of the shells began to land near the station. I'm not exactly sure where, but from what I've read it was very close to the station. And one of the North Eastern Railway employees was a horse and cart driver, and to try and get himself and his horse and his cart to safety, he somehow came along here to the riverside and managed to drive it along the riverbank here, working his way towards this level crossing at Bog Hole here. The signalman in the signal box saw him and opened the gates for him, and he brought his horse and cart across here to somewhere near the signal box. I'm not exactly sure where, and unfortunately a shell landed nearby and he was hit by a shell fragment and it killed him. So that were part of the action with the First World War. And in the Second World War, a German bomber flew low across the railway and dropped a cluster of bombs right here, obviously aiming for the goods shed or the engine shed, and one bomb landed right here and demolished the workshop area of the shed, and another bomb dropped here and demolished half this goods shed, because it was originally much larger and it was wider than this as well, but it's all been compressed, but it completely flattened this area of the goods shed. So 2 World Wars, it's seen an amazing amount of action in a very small area. The railway itself has been shrunk in size because it would need a room twice this size to make it exactly to scale. But the track layout is broadly correct from the station end right down here as far as about the station here at Bog Hall. And the rest of it has been modified to make the railway work, because one thing is the loco turntable were accessed from this end, but to make it work I've put in a line to access it from this end. Future plans are to run right through the train turntable and out of the shed to the outside, round in a half a dog bone and back in through into the shed again here, where I can have extensive storage sidings. Right, let me just turn this round and see if it, oh, mind your engine being opposite where that, no, we'll leave it like it is. At the time of this layout's modelling, which is about 1900, this dock area were in very great disrepair and the walls were starting to collapse into the water, and shortly after this period the dock area was altered and this wall was brought forward to about here, and this pier moved to a slightly different angle, and this dock pier line were cut back to this loop to leave just 2 separate sidings. But in the period that I'm modelling, they were loading actually ships from this spur here, and I have a photo of them hand loading ships from the wagons there. So this is a travelling bipod railway crane that I constructed. It's unusual to have the bipods, but these timber things are on 2 universal joints and come over, and the whole thing is lifted up with the hook, and then the bipod things are dropped over and a section removed from out of the gantry part there, which shortens the reach of it. So it means that they don't have to have an elevated crank for the jib. It's set higher up by removing part of the linkage. It's quite a different thing, and it's based on a Stockton and Darlington one, of which I have a photograph. Also down here there are a couple of snow plows that I've constructed, one of them from a kit and one of them partly from a kit and partly scratch built. It's just a bit of a different feature for the railway. This feature is the fish dock. Whitby were renowned for catching fish. Further down in the town there was the fish dock where the fish were caught, and then they would be brought up here to this loading stage where they would be loaded onto trains and sent down to London and other parts. That's it.